It's, go- it's going to be a transformative experience, preparing you to act decisively and save lives. Without wasting too much time, because it is 4 to 6, 2 days, today and tomorrow, I want to introduce our facilitator. Our facilitator is an expert. She has been doing this for many years, for 15 years and counting. She has been doing it for Red Cross. She did it for Red Cross. She did it for Mobile and many companies. So without wasting too much time, I want to call on our facilitator. Her name is Dr. Kingsley, Dr. Dorothy Kingsley Tugudo. Dr. Dorothy Kingsley Tugudo, you are welcome. Dr. Dorothy Kingsley Tugudo, you are welcome. The stage is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Good evening, MJB Management and Integrated Services. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. How was your trip to the UK?
I thank God. It was cool. Very sweet.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
The stage is yours. The stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Hassan Adewale Aziz. Good evening, Mr. Rotimi. Hello. Hello. Are we together? Please, can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Because I felt I was just talking to myself. So it's nice to have you, Mr. Hassan Adewale and Mr. Rotimi Akinde, if I'm correct. So nice to be here today. We live in a world where we have emergencies occurring every day. We don't pray for emergencies to happen, but of course, we cannot do without it happening. So hence, we are taking this training today. I want to specifically thank everyone. Before we continue, please, I crave your indulgence that we should please stick to the rules so that we can make our 2 hours 2 hours. Please, let's try to mute our mics until when we have to speak. Thank God we are not so many, so it's easier to coordinate. Please, let's mute our mics. We intend to have a very smooth process. So it's nice to have everyone here today, and I'm so happy that at least you have decided to upskill yourselves, like to get more skills, to learn more about, like I was saying before, emergencies happen every day in our homes, at our workplaces, anywhere. Anything can just happen at any time. So it is important and imperative that we learn how to handle emergencies. How do we respond when we have emergencies? That is why we are having this training. Like in my characteristic self, I like to start my presentations with telling you stories or giving you an illustration. Something happened to me so many years ago, or I have an experience I would like you to learn from. Some years ago, before I actually ventured properly into emergency response, like training the Red Cross and training organizations and some very big organizations in first aid, in emergency response. When I started newly, one of the days, something happened in one organization, one factory, a very big factory, and they had an issue. So they reached out to us. They called the emergency response team. They called us at that time. And when they called us, we got there. On reaching there, it was a case of oil spill, chemical spill. They were working with chemicals, trying to produce some things. And in the process, they had chemical spill. The chemicals poured everywhere. The smell, you know how pungent chemicals can be. So the smell now attacked people and people were running help. There was so much chaos. When we got there, it was really a terrible scene because there was confusion. People didn't know what to do. Some were running left, some running right, some didn't know what. There was so much chaos. So, but in the midst of all those things, one lady stood out. One lady, her name was Sarah. She stood out in the midst of all those things. How did she stand out? She was very calm in the midst of people being agitated and there was pandemonium everywhere. She was calm. And before we got there, do you know what she did? She was able to channel her colleagues. She was able to lead her colleagues to safety. Like she took them away from the place where they were exposed to these chemical spills. And she was able to lead them. They all gathered in a place. She was able to like try to arrest the situation before we got there. You know, so I was just curious as to know why she stood out in all these things, because what I saw there, alarms blaring, workers were scrambling, smell of chemicals, and so on. But this lady was a seasoned worker, one of the ladies that worked. She was calm. She was able to know what to do at that time. Why was she able to know what to do? So later on, when we were able to rescue the situation, I asked her, what happened. I asked her, I needed to know why she was able to do what she did at that time. So she now explained to us that she took a training on emergency response and she knew exactly what to do. That was why. So that made me to really, really go deeper into doing emergency response. I had to go for OSHA, OSHA training. I had to learn the things I need to know so that I'll be better equipped to handle emergencies. So why am I telling you this story, or why am I giving you this illustration? When there is an emergency, every second counts. Very important. Every second counts. When you fail to do what you have to do, at the time you have to do it, it can cost properties, loss of properties, it can cost loss of lives. So many things can happen in a split second. So that is why you need to acquire every knowledge to help you to handle emergencies. So I spoke at length with Sarah. She talked about the drills that she had in her previous workplace. She talked about the scenario. She gave me an insight as to why she was able to handle the situation. And overall, I was able to deduce that she was prepared, that she already had that training. So congratulations to you that to those of you that had taken time to pay and enroll for this training. It is really going to be worth it as we move ahead. It's going to help us to be prepared for emergencies. It's going to just make that difference that we are actually looking for. That's what we want. People that will be able to stand up when things happen. So without wasting time, I'd like to know, I would like to know 1, 2, 3. I can see Nene, I can see Mr. Rotimi Akinde, I can see Alex Seidu. I would like to know what you do for a living, or I'd like to know where you work. If you work, I'd like to just maybe in 1 second. I don't like to do all the talking by myself. I'd like to hear, at least to know where you work so that we can rub minds and then share our experiences. Because like I said, emergencies happen everywhere and every time. So you may have 1 or 2 things to share before we delve into it. We are just going to we are just going to learn in a fun way. I don't want it to be all about reading and talking and all that. I want us to rub minds and share experiences, because emergency response is all about learning from people. I'm going to learn from you and you learn from me. So at this point, please, I'd like to ask Mr. Nene. I don't know if I think that should be a man. Nene, or that Nene looks like a lady's name. I don't know. But I'd like you to share with me if you have any experience, if you had any emergency, or if you work, then there should be 1 or 2 things that you have experienced in line with what we are going to talk about today, emergency response. So the floor is open, please. Mr. Alex, can you say something? Okay, Mr. Alex Seidu.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. That's a lady's voice.
Yes, I'm Nene. My name is Nene from Nene. I'm a pharmacist.
Okay, from Nene. Okay. Oh, I love to
Yes,
hear pharmacist again. Were you on the just concluded training we had on supply chain?
Yes, I did supply chain and I did logistics management.
I wasn't the one that handled logistics, but that
Yes,
this
I
was
know. I know, but you were the one that handled supply chain, and I want to thank you very much for your beautiful lectures that you gave us.
Wow, you're welcome. I really feel happy. Thank you for that commendation.
Yes, thank you very much, ma. Okay, so I'm a pharmacist and I work in a hospital setting.
Okay.
And so, but most times we pharmacists are not really involved when it comes to emergency things, but a lot of us have the experience because emergencies can happen anytime. And as you rightly said, it is something that needs to be handled within seconds. If not, maybe bad consequences can happen. Yes. Well, the one time that I had to be involved in any emergency response, I had a patient like about 3 years ago. I remember very vividly because that 3 years ago, something else happened in my life and that. So, but 3 years ago, I had a patient that walked into our hospital. I was working in the family. At that time, I worked in the family medicine department. So we had this patient that came in, a man in his mid-40s or so. He came in normal, but as time progressed, while he was waiting his turn to see the doctor on duty, he started gasping for breath. And my husband is asthmatic, so I know a sign. When I see an asthmatic patient, yes. When I see an asthmatic patient that is about to have an attack, I know. So I quickly swung into action. I walked up to him. He had already started. I think maybe he didn't have thinking he would have been attended to a long time ago. Maybe he didn't bring his inhaler or something. So I quickly alerted the nurses. Alerted a doctor that was about to step out. Sometimes when you are walking, some people want to go for breaks or school runs or something. So I now quickly alerted the doctor and he was like, what's happening, So we quickly swung into action. They quickly got, they were normally for you to get any medication, you need to pay. But in the case of emergency, some protocols have to be broken.
Of course.
So I had to break the protocol of that payment as a pharmacist, So I quickly provided, they needed to do quick inhalation for him. So I quickly provided the Ventolin nebules that were needed, and the nurses quickly set up the nebulizer to allow him have air in his lungs to breathe. Yes. So that while they were attending to him, I now started the paperwork of costing his medications and doing other things. So with that memory does not leave my head, it means that in a split second, something would have happened. Yes, somebody can just, so that's one of the major the emergencies that I've had to deal with. Although there have been others, but that one has never left my So that's my experience, ma.
Thank you so very much, Pharmacist Nene. In fact, I really love dealing with a pharmacist because I know they are already there. So I'm just I learn a whole lot from them. Thank you so much. You actually deserve an award for that. There are people that really do things behind the scene that people don't know. It's only the ones we know that is widely known that they are being appreciated for. But I want to say, even if nobody appreciated you for that, for the mere fact that you were able to save the life of that man is really a very honorable act. So thank you so much, and also for sharing with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. You're welcome.
So that is one of that is emergency response we are talking about. So you see, like in the case of what a pharmacist Nene just told us. If something was not done at that point, then you see that that person is just going to lose it. We are losing that person. So when there is an emergency, every second counts, every minute counts. That is why do not take for granted that you are taking this course. Sometimes people don't really understand that. They just feel, oh, it's not all about money, money, money. But I tell you, when you are knowledgeable, when you have the right knowledge, you may never know when that knowledge will come in handy. You may never know. So that is why it's good to, like I am one person that believes that it is good to learn everything you can learn. Anyhow you can learn, anywhere you can learn it, because it will come in at a time when you least expect, and you'll be glad that you had that knowledge. Thank you so much, Pharmacist Nene. Please, Mr. Hassan, I don't know if you're a pharmacist, Mr. Hassan or Mr. Alex.
Yeah.
Who is talking? Mr.
I'm
Hassan.
I'm a pharmacist.
Okay, another pharmacist. This is beautiful. Okay, sir, go ahead. Sir, were you did you attend logistics or supply chain?
I just registered for the second batch today.
Okay.
For the second batch today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is I love to still hear the voices of the people that I had handled when I had supply chain. That is why I'm asking. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've made payments this afternoon.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please go ahead, Mr. Hassan. Can you tell us, do you have any experience?
Yeah. I've lost connection during the presentation. But well, in case of any emergency issue, yeah, first of all, we need to at least look for the source of the incident, and then we should quickly think about the next step to take to rescue those that is being affected. And then when we can see that our hand cannot handle the case, we can immediately rescue them to the nearest tertiary or any primary health care or any hospital for them to carry out the necessary treatment for the victims. So that is that. In another way around, maybe someone that is having a shock now, someone that is having a shock now. So we don't need to be shouting or scaring of we should quickly get like let's say to pour a water on that person's head, and then to try to at least to press his or her chest.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful.
The person, to revive the person back. And if we can see that what we are doing, we are not getting any outcome. We should quickly rush to where we can be able to get an oxygen. Then we will continue the treatment for the patients. So
thank you so
those are the things that I know about emergency.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, pharmacist Farm Hassan. I think is referred that way. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yes, I'm so happy to hear one very important thing you said. You said we should not, that is, we should be calm. We should not, when emergency happens, if you are not calm, you will not be able to coordinate to know what to do. Like maybe something just happens, maybe there's an accident or something, you know how much of chaos that used to happen at that. People will be so confused. Some people say, do like this. So you need all the calmness that you can have to be able to make correct and appropriate decisions. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Mr. I don't know, Pharmacist Alex or Mr. Alex, please, can you say something because your hand is up? Thank you.
Yes, ma. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, my name is Pharmacist Alex. I work.
Wow, another pharmacist. That's good.
I work in hospital setting.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah, during the course of my practice, I come across a lot. I come across a lot of emergency cases, situations. Yes. So, and I can only remember a few of them. So I can remember one or two out of the ones that I can only remember two, but I come
Okay,
across.
can you share one with us? Just one out of the two.
Okay,
just share
okay.
one. Okay, thank you.
Okay. There was this time that the one woman that delivered at home. So when she delivered at home, then she started losing blood. So is all this type of women that used to go to primary health don't normally come yes, to come and to check to come for prenatal.
Antenatal.
An antenatal unit in our hospital. So she used to go to that primary health care. So when she delivered at home, then she started losing blood when they bring her. And it is unfortunate that time, the doctor that is supposed to be on duty, he went out, yes, to rest for a while, that they call him in one ward that he should go and attend to one patient that is suffering from one. The nurses in that ward, they have problem actually. That's why they call for his attention. So when they bring that woman, the nurses in maternity ward, they said that they don't have ward, they don't have this thing, they cannot attend to her. She should go back to OPD where she will meet doctor. Yes, so that he will admit her first. Then I call on their attention. I told them that, look, this thing is this woman is losing blood.
Yes.
So you have to give her first aid first before, when the doctor come back from the ward, then he can admit her properly. They said, so what did I suggest that they will give her now? I said that, okay, what you will do now, I recommend normal saline infusion for them. I said that, okay, let them place her on normal saline before, let them place her on normal saline. Yes, then before the doctor come, then they will then they will call on the attention of the doctor to look at her, or to admit her properly, instead of saying that there is nothing they can do, or she should go back to that's one of the
ways that you help. Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Alex, pharmacist Alex. Thank you for sharing that. What you have just said is something that is very common. I think with the ladies, they will understand better. When you don't attend antenatal in a particular place, when it's time for you to put to bed, like some people that go to all those homes, maybe midwives' homes to go and put to bed. So if eventually in the course of doing that, if you have any challenge and you rush to the hospital, they wouldn't attend to you. They always punish such women. And they don't even look whether it's emergency or not. That's normally what they do. The women can relate to that better. That's what they do. So that's why it's advised that every woman should attend antenatal in the hospital, so that when it's time for you to put to bed, you go straight there instead of moving left, right. Because sometimes our hospital setting, they also, the nurses there too also have to follow the rules. So thank you for that honorable act. It really took a whole lot, I know, for you to be able to convince those people to attend to her, because normally they don't do it. Normally it's always a challenge when anybody wants to go against the rules when it comes to pregnant women. So that was a very honorable act. Thank you so much, Mr. Pharmacist Alex, for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So without wasting time, thank you for all your contributions. We are going to see what we have here. Emergency response. Today is the first day of our training. And as we already know, we can see the course outline. Please, are we together? Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay. So we are going to look at, like we already had in the WhatsApp group where we had from MJB management. These are the things, the topics we are going to look at, that we are going to run down. So let's look at what is even this emergency. We've been talking about emergencies. What do we mean by emergencies? What are emergencies? Now, emergencies are simply like we already know, things that we do not plan for, events that just happens, that warrants immediate action. Those are emergencies. Of course, note that we don't wish for emergencies to happen, because most times they are always not palatable, you know, but it just happens. So emergency is simply an undesirable, any undesirable or unplanned event that we do not expect. And if not attended to, could lead to loss of life, damage of assets, impact, negative impact on the environment. The side effects of emergencies are always not palatable at all. We all, like I tried to say, we all work in places. Fine. So sometimes we work in, thank God I'm talking to people that are pharmacists already. Like, that's why I wanted to know what we actually, I'm talking to pharmacists. People that work in organizations, maybe oil and gas, even schools, children in schools, teachers and pupils in schools, every setting, they have their own risk assessment, they have their own related emergencies that can occur. So emergencies happen everywhere. Like I talked about the chemical spills, I talked about it could be rupture of containers, it could be even in our houses, gas cylinder. I remember some months ago, I had issue with my gas cylinder, and I didn't know, thank God, I keep my gas cylinder outside. Thank God. I don't keep it inside, because that's one thing any safety person shouldn't do. In fact, nobody should do it, whether you're a safety person or not. Don't keep your gas cylinder in the house. So I kept my own outside, and before you know what is happening, it was leaking. The gas was leaking out of it. Someone's mic is on, and the person is actually obstructing what we are doing. Alex, Mr. Alex, please, can you mute your mic? Thank you. Thank you so much. So as I was saying, emergencies are things that can just happen at any time. So we have to be very conscious. Like I was talking about my gas, it was funny because I didn't even know that the gas was leaking. And lo and behold, the gas was leaking out of the cylinder. So imagine if it was inside the kitchen, as some people keep inside the kitchen. You can imagine that type of thing. But thank God I was very fast to observe and something was done about it. So emergencies can happen at any time, be it in companies, be it in your workplaces, be it in schools, wherever, even in hospitals. Just thank God we have heard people talk about emergencies happening in the hospital. So any undesirable and unplanned events that warrant immediate corrective attention could lead to loss of lives. So that is why when there is an emergency, you act immediately. Do not wait. Thank God for those people that contributed. Don't wait until, oh, we don't know. Where is the money? You have to pay. Where is this and where is that? No, because human life is involved. And there is a very thin line between life and death. Very thin. So if you want, you should always look out for someone to be alive, because it's only a living person that can pay, not a dead one. So thank you. So that's what an emergency means. So what is emergency response? This emergency response we are talking about is simply a systematic way, a systematic way to respond to any dangerous occurrence or anything happening, a systematic way. Then why are we even trying to respond to the emergency? Why are we trying to respond to the emergency? The reason is to ensure that you mitigate the impact of the event on people. For instance, if that emergency that pharmacist Nene talked about, if it was not arrested at that juncture, then we would have lost that man. would have gone, because I know how asthma is. At least I have a cousin that is asthmatic, so I know the meaning of asthma. So if that situation was not arrested immediately, it would have led to the loss of life. Then when we have chemical spills as well, when we have all spillage, it leads to loss of property. You see people's houses, the roofs of people's houses damaged, and so on. So not only lives, property too, and it can affect the environment. It can make the fishes no more. People that are in environment areas, if they have oil spills, it can affect the fishes, and so many things can go wrong. So in such a situation, for us to have an effective emergency response, then we have to plan, we have to do certain things that would help us to be able to ensure that when there is an emergency, because of course we know that there would be an emergency, we cannot rule that out. So what's best can we do than to be prepared? It's like a warrior that is going for a battle. You are already prepared. You have envisaged what you are going to see. You have mounted on your weapons and you are prepared for it. That is how an emergency responder should be. You should be prepared for any form of emergency. Okay, like those that have attended my lectures, you know, what I always like to do. I always like to have a video. So we are just going to look at, on the next slide, we are just going to look at a very short video of just maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And after that, I'm going to ask questions. We are going to rub minds, one or two things that we've learned from that video. Very, very important. So that's on the next slide. Let's go there. Okay. Please, are we together? Can you hear me? I need to always know, because network can be funny sometimes. I need to be sure I'm not talking to myself. Are we together? Okay, thank you. I've only heard a gentleman. I don't know if the others cannot hear me. Are we together, everybody, please?
Yes, we are together, ma'am.
Okay, so now let's just look at this video. And the way I like to do my trainings, I like it to be visual. You know, you can watch videos and learn. You can listen to the things that are typed. I just like to spice it up. I don't like typing. So let's just look at this video to teach us something about emergency response. Let's go. Please, I don't know about the volume. Can you hear it loud and clear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. But if you can increase it a little bit, it will be okay.
Okay, and let me see the volume. Okay, I think that's going to be much better. Okay, let's. Okay, like I told you, that's a very short video. And that video has just told us what an emergency action plan is. For every organization, like those of us in the hospital, like we are pharmacists here, I want to believe that there is something, there is how you handle emergencies. For instance, if there is a fire outbreak, maybe from somewhere, or there's a leakage somewhere, how is it arrested? What should be done? All this should be contained in an emergency action plan. So having watched this video, I would like to ask, I don't know if everybody was able to really understand and view the video. Were we able to understand anything from the video? Hello? Mr. Hassan?
No. Yeah. No, for one, there was no volume. There was no volume. Yeah.
Oh, there was no volume.
No volume from,
Okay.
from the from
Okay.
the video. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Rotimi, was there volume?
Yeah,
Did
no
you hear
volume.
anything?
No, no. No, I didn't hear anything.
That's serious. Okay, Mr. Alex, did you hear
Yes,
anything?
ma'am. No,
Were you
no.
able to hear the volume?
No, I did not hear the
Okay,
volume.
let's see
I just
that's surprising, but let's see what could be the problem. Just give me a second and let me.
okay, ma'am. Okay.
All right, I'm just going to try it all over again, and I'll need to know if you can hear it louder this time. I'll need to know, please. Just let me know. I'll play it a little, then you tell me if you can hear it louder. Okay.
Emergency Action Plan. An emergency action plan is a written document.
Very good, very good.
Okay. Is it better?
Very audible. Very,
Okay,
very.
so I'm going to take it from the beginning. I'm sorry for the first time. Maybe the volume was down. I didn't notice. Sorry about that. Let's go once more. Please take time and look at the video because I'm going to ask some questions from there. Then we'll discuss how it works in our own organizations, like in the hospital setting. Thank you. Let's go.
Emergency Action Plan. An emergency action plan is a written document that addresses expected emergencies in a workplace and organizes employer and employee actions during such events. A well-organized emergency action plan minimizes the severity of employee injuries and reduces property damage. The emergency action plan must address the different types of emergencies that may be expected in a workplace, such as fire, chemical releases, and natural disasters, among others. The minimum elements of an emergency action plan are addressed in OSHA Standard 29 CFR 1910.38. OSHA standards require that emergency action plans must be maintained in a written format and be kept in the workplace, so they are readily available to employees for review. However, employers with 10 or fewer employees are excepted from this requirement.
one or two things. What do we mean by an emergency action plan? And how do you handle emergencies in your own setting as pharmacists, maybe in the hospital or any other setting, it mustn't necessarily be in the hospital. How do you handle emergencies there? Do you have a place you converge when there is a problem? What happens? Is there pandemonium when something suddenly happens? Is there an instruction given for everybody to do a particular thing? Or how does it go? And what's one or two things you must have learned from this video? I'd like to hear briefly before we proceed. The floor is open, please. Please, can we talk? Mr. Hassan, are you there? Mr. Alex. MJ. Baby.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you, Dr. Go on. I'm with you.
Okay, because I can't hear anybody, so I was wondering. Okay, I wanted to hear from one or two people. Okay, Mr. Alex, I can see it's like your hand is raised. Mr. Alex? Oh, wow. Am I really talking to myself? Rotimi, pharmacist, Rotimi.
I'm driving at the moment, so I won't be able to be talking and be driving at yes, because the road is very busy.
Okay, we are talking about emergency response, so we wouldn't want to have emergency. It's okay, no problem. All right, okay. So I don't know what of pharmacist Nene, is it that they have left? Okay, all right. Maybe nobody is willing to contribute. I'll still get back asking the questions. Let's go to the next slide and see what we have there. An emergency action plan, like we already saw in the video, is simply steps. Every organization, every workplace, every home, they have to prepare and plan, lay down rules, modalities as to how to go about emergencies. That's simply an emergency action plan. Like we already have there stated that if it is an organization that they are less than 10, fine, you can verbally communicate, tell them when there is a fire, this is what you will do, this is who is going to be in charge, this person does this and that person does that. In an organization or in a place, an environment where there are less than 10 people, but using the OSHA standard, like we already said, OSHA simply means administration. If you follow those standards, when you are having a house or an organization or a workplace that there are more than 10, then it is imperative that you get it written. Everybody, all the workers have to have a copy of that so that they know exactly what to do at any point in time. So for the fact that we are all taking this training, you that is here, if there is no procedure or no laid down rules or modalities as to how to go about handling emergencies, how to go about handling incidents, then I think you should bring it to their notice that it is important that you have such sessions. But as we progress, we are going to see what is expected of us to do. Let's move to the next slide. Good. Preparedness cycle. Remember, we said when you are prepared, when you fail to plan for anything, then you plan to fail. Whatever you are doing, then the bottom line should be that you should prepare and plan for it, just as it goes with emergencies. So we want to look at the preparedness cycle. What are those things that you need to do before an emergency occurs? What are those things? Let's look at them. But I'm not too comfortable when I keep talking to myself. I'm not very comfortable because okay, I can see Mr. Rotimi is driving. Pardon, Mr. Rotimi, what were you saying?
I said we can hear you.
I couldn't hear you.
We can
I
hear
said
you, ma.
we can hear you, and you are,
Okay,
you are
thank
very
you.
clear about what,
So,
yes.
okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, pharmacist. So, this preparedness cycle. What is the first thing? Like you can see the cycle there. The first thing is planning, very important. You need to plan. Planning is the first thing. Like we can see here, planning. Planning, what is planning? Before an emergency occurs, you need to sit down with your team, if it is an organization, even in a house. This is what I like to do, even in families, as the head of the home. You have carried out risk assessments. You can imagine, like you can list some likely emergencies that you can have in a house situation. That is the first thing. Like in the hospital, I'm talking to pharmacists in the hospital, you have mentioned some likely, and from what I am saying now, you see that most of you, or three of you, have talked about the hospital setting. This happens and that happens. That is the likely things that could happen in a hospital setting. So even in a home, you look at the likely things that could happen. If you are in a school, maybe you are a principal of a school or you work in a school environment, you can look, you sit down and analyze the likely things that could, emergencies that could happen in the school. And then you plan, you talk about how it will be handled. What can we do? Who are the people to do this? So planning simply makes, why do you plan? Because it makes it easy to manage the entire cycle of a potential crisis. If you plan before something happens, you know, for instance, in a school, if you plan, okay, maybe a child, sorry, excuse me, maybe a child slumps, God forbid, maybe a child slumps in the school. Like I had an incident of a child falling down and slumping in the devotion ground. And because modalities have already been put in place, good enough, we had the Red Cross people around, and they were able to rescue immediately. Weak on the knees and wanted to fall. The lady behind already caught hold of the child, and the necessary things were done. So why? Because they've already planned and know that, yes, in a school setting, such a thing can happen. So in any organization you find yourself, or in any setting you find yourself, you have to plan and think of steps that you can take when an emergency occurs. Why? Because it will help you to manage. There will be no chaos, there will be no pandemonium, because you already know what to do and you've already planned towards it. That is planning, very, very important. Of course, in life, if you fail to plan for anything, then you are planning to fail. So since we don't want to fail, planning is very, very important as an emergency responder. Very important. Now let's go to the next one, which is organizing. We finished talking about planning. Organizing in an organization or in a hospital setting. If something happens, if there is an emergency, for instance, maybe there's fire somewhere, maybe there's a spark of fire somewhere in the hospital. What is to be done? When something like that happens, the first person to arrive there has to do this. The next person has to do this. Okay, this is the person in charge. This is the team. We already have a team for fire, a team that is in charge of fire safety or fire, any incidents concerning fire, you reach out to them. So immediately there's something like that, because you have already organized your team, you have already made your organizational structure, you have placed leadership in their different positions. People, staff, workers, they already know what is expected of them when there is a fire. If there is a medical emergency, like in the hospital, good, you already know how to go about it. Okay, if there's somebody just slumped now, what is the first thing? Who are we to contact? What are we to do? You organize it. You organize and make people well qualified. You have a well qualified team that is the emergency response team that is on standby 24/7 in case of any emergency. It makes your job easy. After planning, you have to organize. They have to know what they are expected to do and to act fast when the need arises. That is organization. Remember, we talked about plan and then organization. Organize. All right, now we want to look at train. train your staff. This is very, very important. Thank God for people, for you that have come to learn, have paid for this training. I want to tell you, do not take it for granted at all in any form. Don't take it for granted, because you have an edge over the people that don't know. You have the knowledge where others don't have the knowledge. So there is every tendency that you always be in the front line when it has got to do with anything pertaining to emergency response. So why do we train? It is important for any organization to train. Professionalism and experience is very important in emergency response. You need the right knowledge. You need to know what to do at any point in time. Not only having this emergency response, you also need to have other trainings as well, maybe 1 or 2. CPR, how to give first aid, like one of our pharmacists rightly had said earlier on, that you press the chest. Yes, that is CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Maybe they say it's cardiac arrest. You have to know what to do. Or someone is choking, maybe in the hospital, or maybe in your house, or anywhere there is an emergency. Maybe your child is eating and the person gets choked. Maybe the food chokes. You have to know exactly what to do. Press the belly button and give hot slaps by the back. All these things are things that you need to know, that we need to know, in order for us to be one step ahead of others, to have an edge over others in our workplaces. Then we need all those certifications, we need all those training. So training is very, very important. You train your team members, not only just organizing them and planning to have them. No, you organize them and you organize trainings for them so that they will be knowledgeable. They will know what to do. They will now work as a formidable team. Whether you as the head of the organization is there or not, they are on point at any time. They are ready to handle any emergency that they face. So training is important. Keep upskilling yourself, keep training yourselves, learn all the requirements, learn everything that is required, the regulatory agencies, everything that is mandatory for the laws that you need to know as an emergency responder. Very, very important training. So these things, this training is going to help you. At the end of this training, please share your knowledge. Share your knowledge. You could talk with your organizations, you could talk with the hospital setting, because I had wanted to know earlier on when I asked those questions, I said we should watch the video. I wanted to know how it is done. If something happens in the hospital, what is done? Maybe there is a fire outbreak. What exactly happens? Do you have any place people rush to, like a muster station? What is really done? Those were the things I wanted to hear, but unfortunately, I don't know whether it's network. Nobody. A couple of us were on the road, and we don't want to have an emergency, because if someone driving is on a training and is talking, it may likely end in an emergency, and we are doing it virtually. Nobody will be able to rush to that venue to rescue. So if that being the case, maybe tomorrow will be, since tomorrow is a Saturday, I would prefer that we do more of the talking and interaction. I like to have an interactive session. So content and methods of training must comply with the standards. When you are having the training, then we have what we call the CFR, that's Code of Federal Regulations. People, emergency responders don't just act on their own accord. No, that is why training is important, because when you are trained, you carry out the series of OSHA trainings, you'll be able to know you'll be able to know those regulations, those laws, the laws that are mandatory, those regulations. You'll be able to study the codes and know exactly what to do, so that you don't go against OSHA, you don't go against what is expected of you to do. You move with proficiency. You use the required skills that is acceptable. That is training. So in any organization, even if the organization does not train you, like I already said, that congratulations for those of you that have opted to join this training. Even if the organization doesn't train you, go and train yourself, upskill yourself, because knowledge is never wasted. It will help. All right, let's move to, I don't know, maybe we may need to have a break. I don't know when that will happen, but let's see as we progress. So now we have E, equip. Every organization, they have to ensure that they equip themselves with the facilities, with the equipment that are needed in case of emergency. For example, how will it seem if a hospital, like most of us are pharmacists, maybe we work in the hospital, if maybe in the hospital that you work, there is an emergency and the ambulance is not available, how awkward would that seem? An ambulance is mandatory because in fact, an ambulance is always supposed to be on standby in case of any emergency. So departments, sections, different sections in any organization, be it in the school, be it in the hospital, be it in an oil and gas setting, be it in factories, in any organization, anywhere, the different sections and departments, they need to have a common understanding on how to respond, how to use this equipment, what to do, where to find this equipment. Not that when an emergency happens, they are going to look for this and it's not there. They are going to look for that, it's not there. For instance, if a person slums due to cardiac arrest, let's look at a hospital setting now, or maybe in the house or anywhere, a person slums due to cardiac arrest. You know, when a person has cardiac arrest, you have to immediately administer CPR, that's cardiopulmonary resuscitation. You have to resuscitate that person immediately, because seconds, the longer you leave that person, the closer it is for the person to cross over to the great beyond. You know, so you have to ensure that you carry out the CPR. You have to have an AED. There is what we call an AED, standby, close by. An AED is an automatic external defibrillator. It is used, is a machine that is used to shock the heart to come back to normal, to shock the electrical function of the heart to return. That's why sometimes you see when someone slumps, the first thing is to give CPR. You give the chest compressions and the rescue breath, and you do all those things. So why am I saying all these things? You have to ensure that every environment, every house, every organization is equipped with the materials, with the things that are needed in case of emergencies. We are going to look at some of those things in our subsequent slides. So equipping is very, very important. And for you to be prepared, you know, we are talking about the cycle of preparedness. For you to be prepared, then you have to have the equipment ready. You have to have, if someone slumps and maybe there's no AED is not available, no AED machine is available, they have to go back, that person is gone. So emergencies are things that, or when we have emergencies, we do not have to, because every single second counts. And the faster you can act, the better it is for the person's life to be sustained. So equipping is very, very important. It's one of the factors that we have in our preparedness cycle. And then we go to exercise. Exercise is another very, very important thing. When we have all those things laid in place, we plan. I don't know if you are hearing me, because my network is a bit fluctuating. Are we together, please? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you clear.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So when you plan, you organize, you train. We have looked at all those. When you equip, you have to exercise. They say practice makes perfect. When you practice a thing, it makes you perfect. So every organization, they have to have what they call fire drill. They have to have what they call safety drill. It is during that drill that you carry out the exercises. You test the plans. Okay, you've made these plans. You have said in case there's a fire, everybody should rush to this place, or we should do like this and do like this. How then would you know if your plan and your organization and your training, everything has impacted? You have to exercise. You have to carry it out. That's the meaning of exercise. You know, you provide opportunities to test this plan. You have fire drills. Like when some time ago, I was asked to do a drill in some drill sometime in a school. And why did I advise for the drill? Because they've been teaching the students, it was a school setting, like a primary school. They've been teaching the children what to do when there is a fire, or where there is an incident. What do you do? They showed them the muster station, they showed them everything. over time. But on one fateful day, they consulted me to come and have a fire drill there. And when I got there, since the beautiful thing, they just want to take them by surprise. That's what I told them to do. Because if they had, but since they've not told them, but they've been having constant practice, constant training, constantly teaching them, telling them what to do when there is a fire, telling them what to do when there is an emergency and all that. But they've never had any situation to practice it because up until then, they've not had any emergency. So I was contacted and I told them that there's nothing, especially with children, that is as good as you practicing. Practice makes perfect. So let's assume there is an emergency. We should not allow them to know. Follow the normal procedures, ring the bell. Ring the bell, give them the alarm, the emergency alarm, and let them know exactly, and watch if they will know exactly what to do. That's the exercise we are talking about. And true to what I said, yes, they've been calling other people to train them. They just tell them write and write and write. You know, children, they have fun writing, they have fun reciting muster, what is a muster station, this and that. But when it came to the live situation, like they rang the bell that that was an emergency ringtone, that they were supposed to act immediately, line up and file out immediately to the muster station. You know that they didn't do it. The children were, you know how children, they were just looking, this one was looking at this, they were looking at the teacher. The teacher was looking at, there was so much confusion. They were not prepared. So that's the importance of exercise. In every organization, they should set aside time, maybe once on a Friday, maybe once in a month, maybe twice in a month. They should have that drill, that safety drill, so that they have those alarms. We are going to get to see it by tomorrow. Today is practically the top part of our training. By tomorrow, we are going to see some of these ringtones, what to do when you hear the long blast, what do you do when you hear the short one, what do you do? We are going to get that tomorrow. I like to have practical sessions, so we are going to learn that. But for the purpose of this theoretical aspect of explaining our preparedness cycle, let's just leave it at this. So it's good to exercise. You assess and validate proficiency levels. You find out if they actually can do this when it happens. You see if coordination, if communication can work, because when something happens, there's an emergency, communication is very important. You communicate immediately to the appropriate quarters and keep doing the exercise, because the more you carry out the exercise, the more you renew it in their heads, the more it remains afresh in their heads, so that they'll be able to act fast when there is an emergency. So practically, that is what we are looking at today. We are going to just have some few slides before we are done for today. But this is our preparedness cycle. We've talked about plan, organize, so that they would know what to do, train of emergency responders. Train them, give them appropriate training so that they are not confused when something happens. Because we cannot gamble with human life. We don't gamble with human life. You have to know what you need to know. Because just like first aiders, just like a doctor, even as pharmacists that you are, if you mistakenly give the wrong drug to a patient, you know what that means? It means that, fine, we already know, needless to say what that means. You know what that means. So that is how it is. Emergency responders, we have, in a way, you have the lives of people in your hand. So you have to learn what you need to learn. I even advise that emergency responders should also have first aid knowledge, very important. They should know how to render CPR. They should know how to operate an AED. There are some things that they should know. Thank God you are medical practitioners already. So some of these things I'm saying are not new to you. I know you already know them. So let's look at the last part of our preparedness cycle before maybe we'll have to go for break, just briefly, and then we'll continue. Let's look at the next slide. Evaluate and improve. That's the last part of our preparedness cycle. I like to refer to it. I have an acronym for this. I always have acronyms for things so that it's easier for it to stick in it. So when we are done, I'm going to look at the acronym. The acronym is POTEE. That's POTEE. P is for planning. O is to organize. T is to train. E is to exercise. And then E, evaluate and improve. That is T, E-O-T-E. That's the acronym for you to know your preparedness cycle, how prepared you are for any emergency. So evaluate and improve. Evaluation simply means you finding out if you are able to do what you have learned. Like as I'm having this emergency response training with you, by tomorrow, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and the feedbacks will make me evaluate you and know if you've actually had anything to go with from this training. So when you are having safety drills, when you are trying to be prepared, when you are looking at the preparedness cycle, you are definitely going to try to evaluate and see whether you have learned, whether your workers, whether your employees, whether the students, whether the pupils, whether the patients, whether the workers in the hospital, the nurses and the doctors, whether they are able to understand what you have done so far. Your team, if they have been able to understand, your team members respond. Remember, you're going to have the exercise. Then after the exercise, you are going to ask them questions. You are going to evaluate them. And why are you evaluating them? So that they can look at the loopholes. Because when you have the exercises, when you are doing your evaluation, you are going to discover certain things that maybe were not done right or were not done spontaneously on time. And you see how to close up those lapses so that your team can improve, so that there will be improvement. And there will be recommendations and changes in practice in case there's any part of it that does not align well in that particular setting. Because, you know, like I said, there are different places we can have emergencies. How I do mine may be different. The things that are peculiar, that are related to my own setting as a pharmacist, may be different from a person that works in a school, maybe a different setting, may be different from you, your experiences, or your own setting, or your own risk management procedure may be different from a person that maybe works in an oil and gas setting. There are different things. So when you keep practicing, when you keep evaluating, it will give room for you to improve and get better. That is the beauty of all this. So at this point, I don't know, MJB, if he's still there, I'd like to ask from the participants. At this point, I want to pause and take any questions, if there's any, because we may just need to pause for 5 minutes for our break, and then maybe 5 minutes should be okay, because I don't intend to waste your time. I need you to rest after having a hectic day. So do we have any questions, please?
Yes, ma. I have question.
Attendance was going on. Only El Mustafa Nuruddin is the only person. I don't know if others haven't taken attendance. But at this point, any question, please? Anybody?
Yes, ma.
Okay. Mr. Alex, am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma. You are right.
Okay.
So
please go ahead, sir.
My question is on this exercise. During the lecture, you made mention that the exercise should be carried out in a free hazard or free hazardous environment. That's where there will be more proficiency.
Yes.
Like, do you mean that the exercise should be carried out in another separate place or where? I don't understand.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. This is if I understood your question, like you are trying to say that when I was talking, I made mention of the fact that the exercises should be carried out when there is no emergency, like just to be carried out so that you will be able to find out if they actually understand what they should do when there is an emergency. Am I right, Mr. Alex?
No. What I mean that for example now, like that, for like we that we are working.
Hello, Mr. Alex.
Yes, hello, I can hear you, ma.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I want to rephrase.
Yes, I'm hearing you, Mr. Alex.
Yes.
Please do.
I said for example now, if you want to do like us that you are working in hospital setting, when we are going to do our exercise, are we supposed to do it within the hospital environment, or we are supposed to go outside to carry out the exercise? This is what I'm asking.
Okay. Now, just as I said, I understand you now. Earlier, I didn't understand you. What I was saying is, in terms of exercise, you have to practice. If you are working in the hospital, like now, let me ask you, since you are a pharmacist, if there is an emergency, let's not look at somebody slumming or fainting now. Let's look at maybe in the hospital situation, maybe there is a fire. There is a fire, like we are going to get to that when we get to the emergencies proper. You know, in our outline, we have fire, emergency, medical, and so on. When we get there tomorrow, we are going to take it. Maybe there you will understand better. But what I meant is, like in a school, just ring the alarm. Maybe the children in the classes, let me look at maybe in a school setting, the children in the classes or in the hospital, just ring the alarm. When you ring the alarm, the workers, because they have been trained, because you have taught them to listen and to hear, maybe you are in the maternity ward, that person is.
Yes, ma. Yes.
And children's ward is here or there. Now, as working in that hospital knows that if I hear one long bell, I hear, that is an emergency, all of us should move to so place, or we should act like this, or we should line up and file to the muster station. You understand? So when you do that, that's exercise. At that particular time, it's not as if there is a fire.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you must have to wait until there is a fire before you exercise fire. You can just make believe like there is a fire. Maybe everybody's just in their unit doing what they are doing in their own different respective places. And then somebody, maybe the fire, the emergency response team, somebody, at least your team, someone can just ring the alarm. And because they have been taught the alarm systems, that when you hear this is a fire, when you hear this, maybe someone has slumped, or they know the different types of alarms that we are going to learn as we progress. We also have the test alarm. The test, that one is for test. So anybody hearing that knows it's a fire alarm, but it's a test fire alarm. It doesn't really mean that there's a fire. And in an organization too, they should have a specific day that they use for exercise. Not every day. Not every day. Like in the schools I've gone, like in mobile that I went to do this drill, they have a particular day, which is Friday. Once it is that time, everybody knows that that's the time for fire drill exercise. So they ring the alarm, the bell, and when they sound the ringtone of that particular alarm, everybody knows what to do. Whatever you are doing, whether you are writing, whatever you are doing this, you drop it hands down, and you are marching to the muster station. Then when you get there, other things will be done, as we will see in the subsequent slides by tomorrow. Other things will be done. Roll call will be taken. Everybody will be ensured that everybody is in place. The reason they do that exercise is that they are already used to it, such that eventually any day that there is a fire or anything that happens and you are anywhere, maybe fire, once you hear that bell, say you just, there's something wrong, that means there's a fire, and it's not a day for test. You know that it's a fire and you know exactly what to do. You don't wait for someone to come and tell you, why are you still there? Stand up, go to this place. No, you already know that when you hear that alarm, when you hear that bell, you are moving straight to the muster station. That is why educating the people is very important. That is why the exercise is very important. I don't know, Mr. Alex.
Yes, I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Very clear now, very clear. Very clear to us.
We get to tomorrow we are going to look at it, talk about it just like that. Thank you. I don't know if anyone to have a break. I don't know. Please, MJB, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am here. Doctor, I'm here.
Okay.
We are stopping by 6 o'clock. So we are stopping by 6 o'clock. So I don't know. It's already 5:20. I think we should just go on.
Okay, I think so too. I don't know about the participants. Are we comfortable? Can we still proceed?
Let's proceed.
Okay.
Let's proceed.
Okay, let's proceed. Because 6, I want us to 5 minutes to 6. I've handed over. I can assure you. So bear with me. Let's just get it over. So practically, that is what I was trying to say. That we need all this. We need to know all this alarm. Okay, I can see more people have taken attendance. That's good. We need to learn. As we get to the site alarms, we are now going to know what to do when we hear any of these alarms. Okay, I've taken one question. I don't know if that's the end. Does any other person want to ask any other question? We are almost done. We don't have too many slides today. I didn't want it to be boring for us because I know we'll be tired and more refreshed tomorrow, Saturday. Please, does any other person have any other question? Okay, in the absence of any question, let's move. Okay, now we have about what to do during emergency or before emergency occurs, what to do. I have told you that we have that if you just can hold on to that acronym for T, P-O-T-E-E, is very easy. You can share it with your organizations, you can even share it with the hospital where you work or anywhere. It doesn't really have to be a hospital. Even in your house, if your family members can know what to do when there is an emergency, it's a beautiful thing because emergencies happen anywhere at any time. CPI, especially medical emergencies, they have to have the knowledge of CPR. They have to have the knowledge of first aid, what to do when there is an incident or there is an emergency. So on a whole, this is what we are looking at. Good. Before an emergency occurs. Now, this is practical. The other one we looked at, I just tried to make it simpler, like to put it all together so that you can just see it at a glance. That's why I have this slide. But what you are having in this slide is nothing different from what we have had step by step. The other ones, I had to break it down so that I can explain the cycle in detail for you. So before an emergency occurs, these are the things we have to look at. Plan safe evacuation for the range of anticipated emergencies. Like I said, planning, you have anticipated that I work in the hospital. So the emergencies I may likely have is like we've heard from Farm Nene and the other pharmacists talking about the asthma and also talking about the woman, the antenatal lady, and so on. So in the hospital setting, most of the situations, emergency situations you will have will be related to health. Good. But there are other places, if you work in an organization, then you can have emergency, maybe in the oil and gas, like in Mobile, there used to be emergencies where I went, you see someone, the other time a crane operator had an injury, one of the irons fell on his hand, and they needed to first aid. People that knew first aid, they needed to handle it before even the arrival of the medical person. So regardless of where you are, plan safe evacuation. How? If there's an emergency, maybe you are just walking in this place now. Pardon? Okay, all of a sudden, you plan, there is a fire. How do you evacuate people? How do people go out? Do you have an exit door? Do you have an emergency outlet? What are the things they need to know? See, that's planning. They need to know, okay, this door, when there is a fire, if there's anything that happens here, everybody goes out through this door, or everybody takes this place. Or if you are by that window, when there is a problem, the easiest thing for you to do is to move the window or break the window and take that as your exit. Or all these things, you have to make sure you keep it in place. Managers of organizations, people that own businesses, even in your homes, your children have to know that, oh, if something happens here. Now, if there is a fire in this place, so because oxygen, just go down low, do not stand, you can crawl. When there is a fire, you know you have to crawl. All these things are things you need to learn. As we get to fire emergency, we are going to talk about it in detail. Now, assign roles to execute the plan. Let people know what they have to do. Because if you don't, so many people will be scampering to do one thing and it will not help. In a home, a mother wants to go out, you know, and tells the child what to do. You have to say, okay, Peter, you